Are you looking for inspiring conversations about faith, film, and life? You're in the right place. Here's the host who knows the right questions to ask, Father Edward Looney.
Hey everybody, it's Father Edward. Grateful you're tuning in for another conversation. People who have read my book, A Lenten Journey with Mother Mary, will know that I share a lot of stories about Lourdes, France, about the Marian apparition received by St. Bernadette. I've been to Lourdes a number of times. I'm going back in February for the feast day. I'm very excited about that. But I have Lourdes water. And in fact, let me just get up from my little chair here because right next to me is Lourdes water. So I keep a little jug of Lourdes water. I have two jugs, one that I keep in our church sacristy, actually, and then another in my office. And I've had lots of people ask for blessings with the Lourdes water and such. And over the years, I truly believe I've seen miracles with Lourdes water. From a young boy who put a pitchfork through his foot to a young man who I just blessed a second time now. But the first time was he broke his growth plate. I blessed him with the Lourdes water, and the doctors were all set for surgery, did another x-ray, and it had healed. And they were actually dumbfounded and baffled and didn't understand how he could have made such a profound recovery. Now he's facing other hip issues now from the growth plate issue, and so he asked for a blessing again. So I have seen the power and the efficacy of Lourdes water, and today I'm going to be speaking with Monica. Came across her on Instagram, actually. She posted a video about a healing that she experienced, being able really to walk, I think, unhindered in Lourdes. And so just a powerful story. And I want to kind of break that down a little bit. I actually commented on that post and I said, hey, I have a podcast. I am a big believer in Lourdes water. Would love to have you share your story. And that comment on that post has gotten almost 500 reactions on Instagram. So one of my most responded to comments on an Instagram post of somebody else. So thanks, Monica, for joining me, for your willingness to share your story a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Father, for having me. I'm very excited to speak on this.
Yeah, so just what was give a layout maybe of your health, and you went to Lourdes, and were you in ill health, or what was your diagnosis? Why were you praying for healing?
Yeah, so I know I don't have an officially diagnosed disability or anything, but because of different structural things, flat feet, ever since I was born, I've always had something going on with my knees or my feet, very prone to injury. So just very used to that growing up, and so by my teen years, just kind of limping. It was hard, especially with my knees and my ankles. But it got really bad in the left leg. By end of high school, beginning of college, my left leg became my bad leg. So by freshman year of college, I had a pretty bad injury that really is what made the left leg the bad leg. And so I started using a cane. So I'm now 21, and since the age of around 18, I've been using a walking stick or a cane. I was also in a wheelchair for a couple months. Luckily, physical therapy was able to get me back to just using the cane. But I've kind of had experience of all the different kind of aids of wheelchair, crutches, cane throughout college, which was hard physically, and then also the emotional, I guess, kind of adapting to having to use a cane.
Yeah, well, first of all, you mentioned physical therapy, and I am a strong believer in physical therapy. I have a partial tear of my ACL, and it healed a little bit, or there's arthritis around it, but I had a pretty severe limp for a little bit. And I ended up, going to the doctor. They did the MRI. They're like, hey, you have this tear of the ACL. Didn't you know this? And I'm like, well, I think I could probably pinpoint when that was. But I started going to physical therapy, and that limp went away. And they're like, yeah, we don't really want to touch it because, a lot of arthritis formed around it. So, yeah, the physical therapy really brought me back to walking and everything like that. So, when I get a little pain, I always bring out the rubber band again and I do some of the stretches and exercises, and it seems to always work. So, yeah, big believer in it. Glad that it worked for you. But, so you just mentioned you're like 21 years old now. So you're walking with a walking stick, a cane at the age of 18. Were people like peers? Did they make fun of you? Of course, maybe you go to like a Catholic college or something, but like, were people making fun of you or were they kind of sympathetic to your cause?
That was the hardest part for me of having a cane, and wheelchair was the worst. I needed to get out of that chair because it was a very mixed reaction. Because yes, I did get made fun of, but it wasn't really mean-spirited necessarily. And I do go to a Catholic college. Um, and it's small, which is really hard. So, you know, everyone notices you, and I was the only person in a wheelchair at that time. And I was the only person with a cane around then too. So now we have a little more, like, I wouldn't stick out as much, but still it's like three people out of the thousand or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, I definitely dealt with my fair bit of comments that even if they meant well, it was annoying. So I, in the wheelchair, would get called Monica Kart, like Mario Kart, and people would go and sit in my wheelchair when I wasn't in it because I could walk around inside. I really was using my wheelchair for cross campus because it's pretty big. I'm going back and forth and things, and I just needed the chair. It was an electric wheelchair, so it got me places a little faster. So I would park my wheelchair when I'm inside, grabbing lunch, and then I would see some random kid sitting in my chair thinking it's funny. Um, or then when I would walk around with I had a long wooden walking stick before I got an official cane, because my brother let me use his. And so I'm walking around with my long stick, and people would call me Gandalf or Moses or all these other things, and I'm like, you're not really funny.
Yeah.
Um, or had people like ask me what's wrong with me, which is like, if you're curious, there's different ways to word it. But yeah, so definitely had different reactions. Some people would even would shout cripple, which again they think it's funny, but I'm like, you don't just yell cripple at people.
Yeah.
So mentally, the hardest points in my life for me because I felt like everyone's eyes were on me, even if they weren't necessarily, because I think I only had maybe like 10 interactions like that, but they just like stick with you.
Yeah.
Um, when there's like 600 people, and even those 10 people seem like a lot. So it stuck with me, and I very much like I internalize things. I'm an empath. I like stew on things. And so I was just like, I need to be okay because I don't like all of this attention. Even if it's more imagined attention, I still felt like eyes were on me, or I couldn't even walk to the library at night and just kind of like mind my own business because people will see my cane and know it's me. And so then they'll like run up to me and start talking to me. And sometimes I just wanted to be invisible.
Sure.
And I always stuck out with my cane or my chair.
Yeah, so as you were facing kind of these difficulties in your own personal prayer, like when you went to mass, when you prayed at home, or maybe before the Blessed Sacrament and adoration or whatever, were you praying for healing? Was that a common intention?
Um, Honestly, it never really was. Because I was always taught to offer things up, and that
Hmm.
suffering is a really great prayer. And I don't know, I just always kind of rolled with what I was dealt with. And so, I offered the pain up, and it was always annoying when a new thing would happen. So the most recent issue with my foot, when I went to Lourdes, was that I had a swelling inside my bone, but there really wasn't anything we could do about it, except for like not walking on it a lot. And I obviously had to do that on campus. And the reason I was able to get to Lourdes was I was studying abroad in Rome for that semester. And in Rome, I was walking about 20,000 steps a day. And my cane helped with some of the pressure, but it was putting a lot on my foot. So that swelling shouldn't
Mhm.
have gone away, like, with all that walking. So the
Sure.
fact that there's no pain, that's definitely, but yeah, sorry, going back to the question a little bit. I wasn't really praying for healing. Definitely not when I was still on campus. It was more of just like maybe a prayer of like that the doctors could figure out something, or
Sure.
like there was some sort of surgery, because I didn't know at that time exactly with the swelling thing if there was anything they could do about it. So, but it wasn't ever really a conscious thing. Just kind of like help me have more strength, help me like deal with this better. Definitely was praying to get out of the wheelchair, but with the cane, I kind of just did my best to make do with it. And yeah, I had so much else on my life going on that I guess the my foot wasn't my main thing in prayer.
Yeah. Well, how wonderful you were able to study abroad in Rome and Italy. I just made my first trip to Italy and Rome, and yeah, very incredible. I hope to get back there, especially I was accidentally there for a canonization. I went for a conference. The canonization just happened to be rescheduled when the conference was, and but that was a very powerful experience. I'm looking forward to attending more canonizations in my lifetime. Let's just say that. But yeah, so a blessing of being in Europe is you can get on a plane or you can get on a train and you can go to other sites in Europe, like you mentioned, going to Lourdes. And
Mhm.
so, was there a group of students? Like, was this kind of like coordinated that everybody's like, "Hey, like we're uber Catholic people. Let's go to Lourdes to this very profound Marian apparition site." Is that kind of how it came about?
Kind of. So the Rome program was with my Catholic college. There were about 30 of us students. We were juniors in college at that time, at that semester. And so we're all Catholic. We're all wanting to go to these different holy places. But there was one friend of mine in particular that wanted to form a group of some of us to go to Lourdes. But we were only going to be able to go for about 24 hours. And Lourdes is somewhere I've always wanted to go. Saint Bernadette is my favorite saint since I was little. Our Lady of Lourdes, favorite Marian apparition, just very cool that I've ministered since I was little. So I wanted to go to Lourdes, but I didn't think there was going to be any chance to. So then my friend was like, okay, it's only going to be like one full day, really. We're spending one night there, and it's kind of expensive, but there were about seven of us that were like, no, we're doing this. This is totally worth it. So there were seven. There were five of us who were there when my healing happened, because the other two took a different flight, so they joined us later. So there, I have four witnesses that were there with me, my friends. So that was really cool. But yeah, so just kind of organized by friends, really wanting to get to this really special apparition site. So kind of organized, kind of not.
Yeah. And you go to Lourdes, and obviously there's talk about lots of walking. There can be lots of walking there too. From
Mhm.
the old basilica to the new basilica, which is all in one place, to the grotto, from St. Bernadette Church to the church to the Chapel of Adoration as well. It's a large campus, and hopefully you were there and able to participate in the procession at night with the rosary. Happens certain times of the year, so depending when you were there. But yeah, lots going on. But yeah, when was it precisely then that was it going in the baths that you experienced kind of the healing grace, or was it just being on the property? Like, yeah, what was the situation of the grace that you received?
Yeah, so I kind of want to walk through that day, kind of like where I was at. So we had had a very long travel day, up since 3 a.m. We got to Lourdes around 8 or 9 in the morning, and it was really cold. And so my foot like really acts up when it gets super cold. I had also kind of twisted it a week earlier on another trip. So my foot was in pain, and I even made a comment to one of my friends of like, this would be a really good day to get healed. So that's the thing, like healing wasn't really on my mind going to Lourdes. I just wanted to go to Lourdes because I love it. And my friends, of course, were the ones who were like, "Hey, you're gonna pour water on your foot, right?" And one friend was telling me, he was saying like, "You're gonna leave your cane behind, you're not gonna need it." And I was like, "Guys, like I do want to, have the holy water. I want some sort of strengthening, but I really wanted like my faith to be strengthened. I wasn't like even up to the point of going to Lourdes, I wasn't going for healing. I was going for a strengthening of my foot, but also my faith. My really prayer was just like help my faith. But I did make that comment to my friend of, well, if my foot can get healed, this would be a good day because I'm in pain and it's really cold. And so we get there. And really, the first thing we did was we wanted to go up to the grotto, and then we were going to go see if the baths were open. But it started hailing as we approached the grotto, so it's super, super cold. It's hailing. I'm wearing a dress and a zip-up sweatshirt, but not really much warmth. We had one umbrella that all five of us were trying to gather under. But I was just so happy. I was so excited to be there. The way that the Lord's church is like, it feels like arms wide open, and then get to the grotto and you just like realize that Our Lady and Saint Bernadette were there. It was just so cool. Like I didn't care how cold it was. So just being there was a huge spiritual moment for me. Um, but yeah, so after that, I went towards the gates of the baths, and they turned me away because they didn't have enough volunteers. And I don't even know if you can fully go into the baths right now. I was kind of unsure, of what the volunteer totally meant, but all I knew is that I wasn't going to get to go past that gate. And I had just approached by myself, and my friends were waiting for me at the grotto. So I went back to them super disappointed. And I was just like, okay, I am not going to get to go into the baths. Like I was ready. It was going to be a polar plunge. I didn't care. I was so excited. But then I hit that roadblock and I felt pretty discouraged. It's still hailing and cold at that point. But I decided that I came all this way and I'm going to make the best of it. And so that's when I grabbed a bottle and filled it with a lot of the holy water, and I took my friends towards the side. And so I had been we'd been towards Lord we've been at Lord's at the sanctuary, particularly for about maybe an hour or two at that point. So I hadn't done a ton of walking. So I had walked around like the campus of the Lord's sanctuary with my cane, and I do remember that like it really hurt and I was cold and everything, and I was kind of like hobbling around with my cane and stuff. But most of the walking and exploring I did was after I poured the holy water. But anyway, so we go off towards the side, and it's funny that I have it on video because I really just asked my friend to record it so I could show my mom. Because she always likes to see, what I'm up to. And I thought it'd be cool to have for myself of just kind of the experience of me being at Lourdes or
Yeah.
just pouring the water, even if nothing happened. I didn't care. So I had my friend record and she recorded the whole thing of me pouring it and my reaction. So it's really cool that I have that. So she started recording, and then I had my friends start praying Hail Marys. We prayed three Hail Marys, and I poured the water on my foot, and the church bells started ringing as soon as I finished pouring the water and finished the Hail Marys, and it was just, and I felt a breeze and just like it was so beautiful, and that I was just like, this is perfect, and even like I felt like this was a rebirth of my faith, and that was totally enough for me, and I felt so at peace, most I've ever felt in my life. Um, but then I put my foot down and I kind of like moved around kind of and I look and I'm just like, huh? And I'm like, guys, this feels really weird. And I start kind of like hopping up and down or just kind of like flexing my foot and walking around in circles. And I'm just like, it feels like nothing I've ever felt before. Like there was no even tightness, soreness, there was nothing. Like even though it was still super cold and I'm walking on this cold, wet ground, it wasn't hailing anymore, but still, and I just it didn't hurt. And I have this like it was a constant, sharp, awful, stiff pain that I couldn't get out of bed sometimes, or if I had a very long day of like being on my feet a lot, the next day I could be bedridden. Um, and then it was just gone. And now 6 months later, I almost like don't remember what that pain felt like, which is crazy because that pain ruled my life for about 2 or 3 years is when that ankle pain in my left foot got so bad. Um, and it was just gone. And at first I was just like couldn't believe it, and I was like, I don't know, like is this a placebo effect? Like I'm not really sure. Um, but I didn't use the cane for the rest of that day, and the whole day of like walking all around the sanctuary and into like downtown, I would call it. And I did all of that without my cane. I folded my cane and put a backpack, and I was good. And on for about a month or so after that, I did still use.
One of the things you mentioned there about that was that, you had this pain all the time, and now 6 months later, it's gone. You don't have that pain anymore. So, one of the ways that we talk about a miracle is that it's long lasting, it's instantaneous, and it's unexplainable. So, it seems long lasting. It's gone on for several months now. It was instantaneous. You poured the water and you immediately were able to walk again. So there is kind of elements there of like this could be like a miraculous healing, in a sense, if there's medical documentation or whatnot, etc. So have you shared your story with anybody at the Lourdes shrine? Like, do they know that you experienced this grace?
No, I didn't actually. Yeah, I didn't really have anywhere like in person there. I didn't mention it at all. I have looked into reporting it as a miracle and trying to go through the process, but it does take a lot. And even though there are so many, like we know of so many different like healings that have happened through being at Lourdes and Lourdes water in general, even if you didn't get to go to the sanctuary, like you were saying, just pouring Lourdes water on for that young man, like that being healed didn't have to go to Lourdes. All of that has happened so many times, but there are only 69 approved official
Yeah.
miracles afterwards. It would be really cool to be the 70th, but it would take a lot of different like medical documents and all sorts of different things. So I'm not sure if I'll start the process.
Yeah.
I might at least like, I don't know, send an email of like, oh, this happened, but maybe without trying to start a big long process of getting it
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
not
that would
sure.
at least be beneficial. Even I was praying through the intercession of, is it a blessed and maybe a servant of God? I was praying through that person's intercession for a particular grace for somebody, and like that grace was received. Like things changed, and I don't think it would be enough to like be used for the beatification or canonization, but there is still something about just sharing the story and saying like, hey, I was at the tomb of this person. I prayed for them, for somebody, and they had a reversal in their medical diagnosis. So, yeah, I think, yeah, obviously you bearing witness and bearing testimony, sharing your story, sharing that video as you did on face or on Instagram, that word is out, right? Like I found it. I wanted to speak with you about it. So, yeah, I'm sure maybe even some people there probably already know that they've seen your little video, I bet. So, yeah, what's the general reaction of people in your life, from your family to your friends? Like they knew you before Lourdes and now they know you after Lourdes. And what are they thinking and what are they saying?
Yeah, so that was really cool talking to a couple of the friends who were there that witnessed it. And everything too. They were all just kind of like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean it feels weird? Like, and everything. And one of them was just kind of like laughing, like she didn't know what else to do, just like just she was happy and excited for me. Um, but yeah, so the biggest reaction for like my family was just kind of my mom has such a strong faith and she loves Our Lady so much. And so she wasn't really surprised. Because I was just like, yeah, this happened, my foot's so good. Like she was so excited for me. But she was just I think she just had so much faith that she was like, yeah, I'm so happy for you. And I just yeah, we didn't even have a whole long conversation because she just had prayed for it too, I think. And just yeah, I love her strong faith. Um I yeah, and I think it was similar reactions for my siblings too. My older sister was just like, yeah, that's really cool. My younger sister thought it was cool. My older brother, he's discerning priesthood. So like we all are just very, very strong in our faith, which is really beautiful. And so he was just like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, like so everyone in my family, and my dad and I never had like a full conversation about it, I don't think. But everyone in my immediate family was just kind of like, yeah, that's really cool. We're excited for you,
Well,
but
yeah.
not
Yeah.
shocked exactly. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would think
But
people are.
other people,
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, I was gonna say, I bet
Um,
other people are surprised, like classmates, schoolmates, like
yeah.
this is the girl that used to walk with the cane, and now she doesn't have the cane, and so surely there
Yeah.
must be like questions, like why don't you have the cane anymore, things like that. So
Yeah, so that definitely did start happening once I got back to campus because when I was still in Rome, everyone kind of knew that I was going to Lourdes and everyone was just kind of waiting of like, so how's your foot now? Because I did stop using the cane. So everyone who was in that semester, they knew that and everything. But yeah, when I got back to campus, they didn't know, unless some of them did find my reel, including some incoming freshmen who were like, "Wait, I saw your reel. Like you're the one that got healed at Lourdes. Like that's so crazy." So some people already knew from that, like they saw the reel and were like, "That is an amazing thing. I want to ask you so much about that." But they weren't surprised not to see the cane. But others who didn't hear anything of the Lord's healing were like, so why did you have that cane? I thought it was a permanent thing. You don't have a cane now? Like, I'm confused.
yeah,
So there definitely were some questions, but as soon as people hear about the Lord's thing, like that's all like people ask me about now. So it is kind of interesting going from like the girl with a cane and your people constantly ask me what's wrong with me, and now it's like, wait, this really cool Lord's thing happened to you, and like that's now all they ask me. So I'm trying because like I don't like being a spectacle. It's my biggest thing. And that's why it's like when I got comments on that reel of like, oh, you're doing this for attention, that is the last thing on my mind. I really don't.
yeah,
I
you
like
want to
being the center
give
of attention.
witness and glory to God. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like this is for glory of God. Um, and like some things like I love like being the center of attention when I'm telling a story or something, but I don't like being a spectacle, which is how I felt with my cane and wheelchair and stuff, and how a little bit like I'm weary of becoming that with my Lord story in a way too. So I don't know. I just am trying to like I don't want it to be a personality trait. I don't know if that's the best
yeah.
way of putting it because like of course I want to talk about it because I want to be like, yeah, this really cool thing happened in my life and like it's because of how good God is and the intercession of Our Lady and Saint Bernadette, but I don't want to constantly be like, oh yeah, I'm so cool. I guess it's kind of like going with that balance. But yeah, overall people definitely had questions of like why I'm not using the cane, and I got to tell them the Lord story, and then they're just like, that is the coolest thing I have ever heard.
Wow. Yeah. Well, one of the things, just kind of as a priest that I would say is like, like don't forget the grace that's been received. Like you won't, but I know of other people who've had like miraculous things in their life, and 10 years, 15 years later, like they renounced the church and faith, and like one of them was even a priest that like literally was brought back to life by the intercession of a saint, honest to God, and no longer a priest. And I just always think about that. I'm like, how can you experience such a profound grace and then like turn your back on the one who gave it, in a sense? So, yeah, just my encouragement is like, yeah, I'm sure it's affected you positively in your spiritual life now, and like carry that with you for the rest of your days, and yeah, keep giving witness and telling people about the power of Marian intercession and Our Lady of Lourdes and all that. So yeah, it's an incredible story, and I'm happy that you're able to share it with me and everybody that'll listen and everybody that'll watch it as well.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I do love talking about it. I think, like you said, I want to focus on the graces received and the power of Marian intercession and just make it as little about me as possible because this has brought my faith on fire. Like I've always loved my faith, loved talking about it, but kind of not lukewarm exactly, but not as on fire or knowledgeable with things the past couple years because different things in my life happened. But since this, it was like I said, a rebirth, and so I am very excited, and I can still like feel the grace is working in me.
Yeah. You're a college student. I don't know what you're studying, but like, what's the future hold for you? Like, are you close to graduation, looking for a career? Are you going to work in the church, or are you, kind of a person working in a secular job that's very, faith filled? What's your future look like?
Yeah, so I'm in my last year of college and I am writing my thesis. I'm a philosophy major. So I'm writing my thesis on the importance of having fun. So that's been really cool to research and write. Uh, yeah, and as for after college, I have always been interested in doing youth ministry, something in that realm. So right now, I am looking into being a missionary for Net Ministries.
Okay.
That seems to be maybe the thing I do for the next year after graduation. So, yeah, prayers appreciated for that because I am discerning and applying for that right now. But then probably bigger picture would be youth ministry director. I mean, my biggest dream that's always been on my heart is to be a mom, to be married and be a homeschool mom. Like I was homeschooled. That would be really beautiful. But as of right now, the nearer future seems to be the youth ministry
Sure,
director
sure.
role.
Well, thanks be to God. And of course, as you work with young people, you'll be able to tell them like God heals, and this is the power of prayer, and this is God at work in my life through the intercession of Mary, Bernadette, and so forth. So, so is your Instagram account, is that public? People can just follow you
Yes.
over there and see that reel
Yeah.
and everything like that. So, what's your handle over there?
It's all lowercase mon Catholic.
Okay, well, very good. Well, give you a follow. Look for that reel, that video, to see just exactly what a healing looks like as it happens in Lourdes, France. So very powerful. And thanks so much, Monica, for sharing it with me today.
Yes, thank you so much. I love this.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. And don't forget to stay up to date with what Father Edward is doing by following him on Facebook or Instagram at the handle @FrEdwardLooney. Thanks for listening, and please join Father Edward again next time for another inspiring conversation.